Chapter 29. I woke up with a start. I had to flick on my headlight to remember where I was. My back was against the wall. The cold made my shoulder ache. Elena's head was resting on my uninjured shoulder, thank goodness. I tried to move without waking her, but she opened her eyes and smiled weakly at me. I was having a dream, she said. It was nice. We were kicking stones in the schoolyard. Let me guess. We were seeing who could hit the bars on the swing set more times. I was winning. Big shock there. I ran my fingers over her cheek. We should get back. My digger is just down the tunnel, she said. I didn't want anyone finding it and then finding me. It'll take about 10 minutes for me to get there. I'll walk you, I said. She put my hand and kept holding it as I helped her stand and we walked back down the tunnel. The warmth between us was returning, and I couldn't help feeling that we had rediscovered our connection, or at least started to. Fatima was sitting in the cockpit of my digger, reading Oliver Twist. She smiled when she saw us together. This is a very funny book, she said. Nothing like a real orphanage, of course, but very good anyway. And of course it turns out the kid is actually rich. No wonder you like it. Did you ever find a map hidden inside? Elena asked. Sort of, I said. It's not really a map. It's more like a sequence of numbers. Fatima nodded and held up her special flashlight. I've been going through them. I've seen them too. Any ideas? She stared at me for a long time before talking. I need to ask you a question about your father. Like what? I said. I wasn't sure what she was getting at. Did he ever talk about his childhood? Not much. He told me his parents died when he was quite young. I don't even remember having any pictures of them. He said he worked in the mines to support his family. Fatima nodded. Then she put down the book and rolled up her sleeve. She turned her shoulder to me. Just above her elbow, she had two dark MS. My father had the same tattoo, I said, incredulous. It's not a tattoo, Christopher. Fatima rolled down the sleeve. It's a brand. A brand? My dad didn't have a tattoo like that, Elena said, confused. That's because, unlike Christopher's father, he had never been a grinder. I was stunned. What? Fatima nodded. Your father was a grinder when he was a child. That's when he got the flashlight, and that's where he learned to learn this code. My head was spinning. A grinder? But it doesn't make sense. He would have mentioned it, wouldn't he? Maybe it was not something he wanted you to know about him, or about the reality of life in the mines. Or maybe it was not something he wanted to broadcast, Elena said. I thought of how the others had reacted to the grinders when we first met them, and understood what she meant. I thought back to how angry he'd been when the miners had told him a couple of grinders had been trapped in a cave-in. I also thought back to the inscription in the book. It said, when he's ready. Had my father intended to tell me but had never gotten the time? But why did my father allow Melming Mining to use grinders if he knew what that was like firsthand? Fatima interrupted my thoughts. This code he left in the book is a code grinders use in the mines when we want to find something but don't want anyone else to find it. Stolen stuff? I said. She narrowed her eyes at me. Or possibly someone who is trying to escape. So you can read the code? Elena asked. Fatima shook her head. You need the beginning number, the key, for everything else to make sense. It's like a lock combination. You need the first number, and then you know how many spins to go left or right after that. It's not in the book somewhere, I asked. Fatima shook her head. Rack your brains. Did your father say anything else to you? Anything that might have been the key to the sequence? I thought hard, but I came up with nothing. Why would he make it so difficult? He clearly didn't trust somebody. He wanted the beacon hidden. Even if the map had fallen into the wrong hands, they'd be unable to break the code without knowing the first number. We sat there for a minute, trying to think of how we could break the code. I was also thinking other things. I understand why this book was so special to my parents now. My dad said he met my mom in the mines. She must have seen him working as a grinder. I wish I could ask them the story now. It must have reminded him and your mother of their childhoods. Like I said, there are some very unrealistic parts in this book. There are also some parts that capture the sadness of a lonely life in poverty. Wow. I gave a quick, ironic laugh. Maybe this was a perfect birthday present for their baby boy after all. Fatima looked confused. Baby? I showed her the inscription my father had written in the front. To Susan, a gift for you and our new baby boy. Read it to him at bedtime when he's ready. But this book isn't that old, she said. She took the book and opened it up to the information page. I looked at the publication date. This edition was printed after I'd been born. In fact, my dad must have bought it right before we left for Persis. Then why would he put that dedication in the book? What day were you born? Elena asked. May 20th? 5:20, Fatima said. She closed her eyes and started making lines in the air with her fingers and hands, like she was working out a diagram on a chalkboard. You remember all the numbers? Elena asked. Fatima didn't open her eyes or stop moving her hands. It comes naturally. You get used to doing work without textbooks or computers. Finally, she opened her eyes and smiled. Got it, she said. The opening sequence is your birthday. The 5 is the beginning number, and the sequence continues from there. Elena and I stared blankly at her. I shook my head. Okay, I might need some help figuring that all out. She looked at me and tis, rich boy. I thought you were smarter than that. Your dad wouldn't leave you a code you couldn't break. I'm not so sure about that. He was trying to tell me something about the map at the very end, right before the elevator doors closed. Maybe it was the key. I will tell you this. The numbers that are circled once indicate left. The numbers that are circled twice indicate right. The numbers that are X'd out alternate left and right, but starting with the opposite of the first direction in the sequence. I turned to Elena. Believe it or not, I got that first time. I believe it, Fatima continued. Don't worry about specifics yet, like location or distance. Just pick a starting point and then think of the numbers and how they are telling you which turns to take and see what you get. I pulled out my notebook and marked an X in the middle of a page. Then I started with 5, the number of my birthday. I used dots so everything would fit on the paper. Following the sequence of numbers, I ended up with a final X in the upper left. Now try it again with a different starting number. I went back to 4, then followed the same sequence after that. I ended up with a second X in the upper right hand of the upper right of the paper. See? 4 was a misdirection. You discard it and start from 5, Fatima said. One wrong turn and you could find yourself as far away from the right place as possible. It was the same logic I'd used when I came up for a place to set up our first camp. Just for kicks, I started with 9. I ended up in yet another part of the sheet. Wow, I breathed. That's cool. Fatima smiled. Good. So you understand how the sequence works and why it's important to know exactly which number and direction kick things off. I'm not sure I could have figured that all on my own, especially the left and right variations. Perhaps your father knew you'd discover a grinder once you lived in the tunnels long enough, or he hoped you'd have time to try out different combinations. So how do we know what unit we need to measure? Elena asked. I was glad to see her becoming more engaged again. That's 20. Each unit is 20 yards, 20 feet, 20 tunnels, or 20 miles. Or, I said, that's a pretty big difference. How do we know which one is right? Fatima closed the book and handed it back to me. You look, I'd suggest trying feet first. It's smaller. Thanks, Dad, I muttered to myself. And where do we start? Elena asked. There are 4 tunnels, Fatima said. We nodded. Then I'd suggest starting with number 1. Okay, then one last thing. What do the numbers in the boxes mean? Fatima scrunched up her nose. I have absolutely no idea.